Donald Trump has been trending all over the world. Let's start with Time Online, the website saying that the US presidential hopeful is calling for this complete ban on Muslims entering the United States in light of recent attacks. This article looks at how his Republican rivals are condemning his comments.
Now, this is the front page of today's Japan Times. Hopefully you'll see it in a moment. It's looking at how American arms makers are under pressure to meet growing demand for weapons being used by a US-led fight against so-called Islamic State. We can't show you the graphics at the moment, but that was the Japan Times.
OK, I'll tell you what, if we haven't got the pictures, let's just go straight into the... Oh, you've got them now, have you? OK, right. The Financial Times leads with the slump in the... Oh, OK. OK, come on, catching up. Yeah. Keep going. OK, this is the Japan Times, which is talking about arms sales around the world. Here we are with the FT leading with the slump in the price of oil. It's at its lowest since the financial crisis. OK, keep going. Go.
You know it's live TV when this is the kind of thing that's going on. This is India's Business Times, which stays with energy because it talks about plans to build a $4.5 billion undersea gas pipeline from Iran to India, coming amid the lifting of Western sanctions that have been imposed on Iran.
For the first time, Beijing authorities are issuing a red alert because of the high levels of pollution in the city.
And finally, ESPN is looking at the fact that the sports brand Nike has signed basketball star LeBron James to a lifetime deal, a first-of-its-kind signing, thought to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, the biggest in history, it's reported.
Cornelia Meyer is here, CEO of the business consultancy firm MRL Corporation.
Morning, Cornelia.
And the Donald Trump story is so good, you know, I just thought let's get into it as soon as we can. Well, some people say he's a security threat himself to the United States now because those kind of comments fuel jihadists all over the world. Well, there's so many things to say about this.
There's so many things. What I would like to say is I'm really deeply disconcerted. I see sort of an upsurge of anti-Muslim, a swelling of anti-Muslim feeling here on this side of the Atlantic, on the other side of the Atlantic. And, you know, we have vast Muslim populations who are productive people. And, you know, we have non-Muslim mass murderers. So in that sense, I find this undifferentiated thought that a lot of people, you know, when he said this, people were cheering. You saw people were cheering. That was deeply disconcerting. At the same time, you see people like Marine Le Pen, who is also quite, on the right of the spectrum, being very successful in the French elections. She's very clever in how she handles things, but we just see the climate between sort of the West and the Islamic world getting increasingly more difficult, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, yesterday we had a report from Germany, and Siemens, the German company, is giving apprenticeships to refugees who arrive in the country. A representative of Siemens, and it's not really a religious issue, but because most of the refugees arriving there are Muslims from the Middle East, he said that refugees have a particular drive to deliver, and once they're trained up, they're better employees than the average employee around the country. So it's not a religious thing. The other issue you mentioned, which was very interesting and very, very pertinent, is that most mass killings in the United States are not perpetrated by Muslims. So what's Mr. Trump talking about, for goodness sake?
Well, it's disconcerting, and the thing that was so disconcerting is when he was making these sort of hateful statements, people were cheering. That was... That sent the shiver down my spine.
Yes, that's a good point.
It's his supporters, it's not...
Yeah, well...
It's not...
It's his supporters. It's not a normal audience, but he has a lot of supporters.
OK, let's look at Japan Times. And this is an interesting take on the current conflict going on between coalition forces and IS. Top US arms makers are straining to meet surging demand for precision missiles and other weapons being used in the US-led fight against so-called Islamic State.
Well, it's the bombings, the US-led bombings have cost $5.2 billion so far. So it's quite a bit, and I'm not surprised. on one side, this is, you know, we have to fight Islamic State, so this is good. It also creates jobs. On the other side, what I find disconcerting, when you bring arms into a conflict area, you know, sometimes the people that you're arming have to flee because the bad people are getting there, Islamic State are getting there. So some of these arms may end up on the side of Islamic State because such is the nature of especially asymmetric warfare.
Islamic State in Iraq is reported to get most of its weapons from the Iraqi army. Here's a very disconcerting quote. It's an unnamed, he's not authorized to speak publicly, in fact I presume it's a he. It's a huge growth area for us, said an executive with a US weapon maker. Everyone in the region is talking about building up supplies for 5 to 10 years. This is going to be a long fight against the Islamic State. And then the other point, forget Islamic State, a lot of these countries are getting weapons and using them to oppress their own people. This has been a big issue for Western countries that send arms to the Middle East, that those states use it to oppress their own people.
I think we're here talking about the sort of Islamic State thing, and what I'm more worried here with Islamic State is, as you said, you know, you arm the Iraqi army, the Islamic State approaches, they leave the weapons behind. So in the end, you may help arming the bad guys, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Now, oil prices are still falling to near 7-year lows following the OPEC discord. You were at the OPEC meeting. It's described in this article as ending in chaos after just 7 hours on Friday. How was it from your point of view?
Well, it was a difficult meeting. I think it was a difficult meeting.
That's very diplomatic, Cornelia.
It was a difficult meeting, and for the first time, I've been following OPEC now for more than a decade. I've gone to all the meetings, and for the first time,
if you don't mind me saying.
for the first time, I like going there. For the first time, they didn't come up. They couldn't even get a production target out.
This talks about Saudi Arabia and Iran scrapping in particular.
You always had a thing of Saudi Arabia. The Gulf states, Saudi Arabia got that UAE against Iran, Venezuela, and those people. But the thing here was that for the first, we don't know how much oil Iran will be pumping. I don't think it will be quite as much as people expect, because it's not easy to get this underinvested sector up so quickly to produce. We also had Indonesia come in, so we don't know how much they will produce. Last time something like that happened was when Angola came in, and they made it the same thing, but they packaged it differently. They said, okay, we will leave, we will roll over, we'll leave the production ceiling, but we will give Angola 3 years to see how we accommodate them. So they did it differently this time, and it was done probably more elegantly when Angola came in.
Now, interestingly, in the Business Standard here, this 4.5 billion proposal for the pipeline undersea from Iran to India, and I say interesting because it's going to bypass Pakistan. Pakistan's always been opposed to anything from Iran going through its territory to India, probably its biggest regional rival, of course.
Well, and obviously the Indians would be very worried about, you know, the Ukrainian situation of the Pakistanis cutting off oil. In many ways, I would actually like to see that, because they would have to get along. You know, once you have a pipeline, you have to get along, you have to work together. I worked for the Asian Development Bank in the early 1990s, and we were already talking about these pipelines. So finally, we're moving this ahead. It makes sense from a sort of energy security standpoint for India not to have the pipeline go through a country that they feel they may not get along with.
Yeah, it's interesting you say you were talking about it in the 1990s. They have been talking about it for a long time. We have to leave it there.
But long pipelines, international pipelines usually take decades to get there. Just the financing, 4.5 billion.
Cornelia, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
See you soon. Bye-bye.